Ladies and gentlemen, Juan and Ryan back with another Byte That interview. Returning once again to the show, this man is now the author of 2 published books talking about his history, his backstage situations in the world of the WWE, joining the WWE at a very young age. Back again in the show, JTG, thanks for being here, man.
How you doing? What's up? What's the word?
Doing awesome.
Doing
Life
good
is
as well.
good. Life is good. How you doing, Ryan?
Doing well. So with this second book, I noticed the big thing I noticed right out of the gate is the cover art. I really like the cover art you got going on, where you're laying on a bed, getting lotioned up by a nice little
Looking
devil lady. So how'd you get that going?
Yeah, hell is pretty comfortable once you get used to the heat.
Yeah. Hey, going to the darkest and hottest place you can possibly get to.
Exactly. My wife wasn't too comfortable with that setting. She's she's very Christian, and she's like, I can't approve of this cover. I can't help you spread the word around because I can't do that. You're in hell. I'm like, all right, I'll do it on my own then. Thanks.
So was that sort of a follow-up? Because, of course, with the first book, and the first question is, how was the overall feedback maybe within the actual wrestling world? Did you get comments about that? Like, man, you really brought that up? How was that?
When I see like fellow superstars,
yeah.
Oh, they give me great remarks. Like I saw who did I see? I was in the airport and I saw Carter, E. Carter. What is his name?
Okay, EC3?
EC3, yes. I saw him in I saw EC3. I saw him in the airport. And he was like, yo, what up, bro? I'm like, what's up, man? Yo, I got to tell you, man, I loved your book. I read it in one day. I'm like, wow, thanks. Saw Titus O'Neil. I saw him a couple of months ago, and he loved the first book. So I hope he enjoys the second one. He gets a little shout-outs in the book throughout the chapters.
I can imagine. Did you ever show the book to somebody outside of the wrestling world? Because for a lot of us, there are the dirt sheets that, whether it be true or not, we are in some way familiarized with what's happening. There's a bunch of podcasts, but what happened if you actually presented that to somebody that doesn't know the world of wrestling and then see all of these things that happen to you?
For them, it's big. Like my friends and family, I have a lot of family who don't watch wrestling, don't know anything about the culture. So when they read these stories, I wrote it in a style where it's comedy, so anybody could relate to. So they definitely enjoyed the story and the comedy from it. But they really get a good inside look into the wrestling world, and it's really surprising what wrestlers go through in the beginning of their career, in the middle, and towards the end.
Yeah, I feel like for anyone who doesn't really understand the wrestling world, it seems to them like, why would anyone ever put up with a lot of things that, you guys have to put up with? It just seems like a very hostile work environment, just like how much pressure is on you.
Oh, yeah. It's like you're literally walking on eggshells. But when you love something so much, and you don't notice it when you're in it. Absolutely.
Now, you were talking about the reception you get from, guys in the business, wrestlers. Do some of them kind of look at you almost like a whistleblower, or like sort of like someone, being kind of the first to really speak about this side of the business? Wrestlers come out with a lot of books, but they kind of keep this part of the business a secret.
No, I didn't get any negative feedback from any of the boys. It's all been good. Because I didn't come off with both books. I didn't come off bitter at all. I enjoyed my time with the WWE. I had fun. I had a learning experience. They taught me a lot, and what they taught me, I'm able to use in the business world and the entertainment world. And I'm glad for all my experiences. Now I could write a second, maybe a third book.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really good. And honestly, we got to give you a lot of credit, because it's hard to be able to express a situation that somebody that's not involved in it will see it as like, man, this is horrible to him. But you write it in such a way that you can't help but laugh. It's almost like a laugh track waiting to happen. Like, oh, what's JTG up to now? Oh, look at that Shad. What's happening with him?
Oh, when life give you lemons.
Yeah, I definitely also have to give you credit for just, the format, the writing style, your personality really shows through in the style. And I'm not someone who reads a ton of books. I'll be completely honest. But, I think the last book I read before this book was your first book. And so you've really motivated me to actually, read these books. They're very interesting. So, and you like very nice and concise. And yeah, I just really like the writing style. So definitely give you a lot of credit for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That means a lot.
So about the book itself, the first one was about heat, and you were talking about it was this dark cloud going over the wrestler. But with this one, what could you tell to any wrestling fan what the game is and why do you need to play it?
And with the game, everybody plays the game. It doesn't matter what industry that you're in, entertainment. If you're working a 9 to 5, you definitely want to move up on the ladder, in the corporate ladder, or you want a better position. And you got to make these power moves. And with wrestling, it's really confusing because one minute those power moves might work for you, and then a couple of months or weeks later, it might not. So you just got to know your role. You got to know the pieces. I call the backstage environment is like a chessboard. Everyone has if everybody's familiar with chess, you have your ranks. You have your pawns, and then you got your higher ups like the bishops, and then you got your king and your queen. And you have to know how to play those pieces and use them to your advantage.
How long during your time in the WWE did it take you to figure out that there is this hierarchy, there is this pecking order, and that you need to sort of figure out how to go about it without really offending anybody?
I mean, I didn't associate with the game. When I first got there, I didn't want to. I called it kissing ass. To me, it was just like, oh, you have to kiss ass to get up, to move up. No, I'm just going to use my charisma and talent. That's what I saw. A lot of the guys who I looked up to, they was very charismatic, and they had a lot of talent. So and their wrestling skills. That's what I saw being a fan. Now getting into the business, even guys who I thought was talented, they weren't moving up, and they weren't playing the game. And for me, I didn't want to play the game, so I just opted myself out, and that was a big mistake.
Do you think that's a situation with wrestling that maybe doesn't apply to any other work? Like, weird example, say you're great at math, there is a legitimate proof, for example, that you're great at that. You can be a 5-star wrestler, but for whatever reason, maybe that push doesn't happen, but maybe somebody that is less experienced and you would say is or either dangerous or maybe doesn't connect for whatever reason, it doesn't work. Why do you think wrestling is so different in that situation?
It's all about the relationships. It's all about relationships and leveraging them. Guys want to push their guys. I don't want to name any names, but there's some guys who've just gotten pushes because of their relationships with that veteran, that person who's been there for so long, and that's my boy, I like him. I think he has a lot of potential, and they put their name on him, hoping that talent will make it big and prove him right. And sometimes they're wrong.
Have you ever seen a situation where someone is more like immune to the game? Like if someone with a big reputation is maybe new to the company, but they've made a name elsewhere, does that help or hurt them? Or does everyone who starts regardless, even someone like Sting who recently came to WWE, does everybody have to play by those rules, or are there exceptions?
I don't think there's any exceptions. You have to play the game. You have to play. You definitely have. You could if you piss somebody off. I don't care what reputation you have. I give you a good example. Freddie Prinze Jr. He came in as one of the writers, and he was great to work with. He had great ideas. He was creative. He was great with the talent. He helped talent with their acting skills, and he refused to play the game, and he left.
Wow. Yeah, that really kind of shows it doesn't matter who you are. Everybody has to play, unfortunately.
What is the beginning of Triple H's song?
It's all about the game and how you play it. I was going to say there's more to that than anyone thinks, I guess.
It's deep. It's really deep.
So in the first book, you talk about trying to sort of stand out, right? Because you do worry about these backstage situations. But once you're out there, right, you have that adrenaline rush. You're out there, the crowd's looking directly at you, or if it's a tag team one-on-one match. You did point out one time you looked at the camera during a pinfall because you wanted to do something different, and you got sort of yelled out. Now, have there been any other situations where you tried to experiment, or you saw a colleague trying to think outside of the box and it didn't really work out for them when they went backstage?
Plenty of times. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I did something also. I tried something new. I didn't ask. I just did it. I was rolling it. I had the move called the mugshot, and I wanted to try something new because before I hit the mugshot, I'll roll the dice. So what I did, was I made my own dice out of something. I asked someone in the back to make me some dice. It was cheap, but I wanted to be visible so the fans could realize that it was dice. And then I rolled the dice and I threw it in the audience. And when I got backstage, they were like, "What the hell was that? What did you throw in the audience?" It was like, "Oh, it was dice." We couldn't tell it was dice, and they kind of got on me like, "We don't want you throwing stuff in the audience. You know, that could have been dangerous. What if it hit a kid? You know, are they suing us and blah blah blah?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." I just wanted to try something new, but all right, I won't do it again.
Yeah, so sometimes you're a little afraid to experiment.
Well, not me, but for talent, yeah, they're afraid to experiment. They don't know what kind of lashback they're gonna get.
So is it more often than not, people are punished for being creative than rewarded? Is that like based on what you saw?
Yeah. I think people get more. They definitely get punished more than they get rewarded. And when you do something, you do experiment and it goes off well. Everybody wants to take credit for it. It's like, oh gosh.
One particular thing, when Juan first interviewed you, you said when you had first started that there was a lot more creative freedom in the locker room, and then later on in your WWE run, they had been more strict about maybe scripting for promos and things like that. Can you talk about that process of like, was this like an overnight thing, or did, slowly they were more controlling over your creative freedom? How did that process happen?
I think it gradually came to the point where it is now. I think a lot of talent has took too much liberties, and they just wanted to stop it, just nip it in the butt. I'll give you a good example. Abraham Washington, when he just said that thing about Kobe Bryant, they gave him a little liberty, and they gave him an inch and he took a yard, and I was like, whoa, okay, now we, stuff like that. It makes the office afraid to make you go off script, unless you're The Rock, of course.
Yeah, recently The Rock, for example, and you can tell when in the product something changes. In his last Raw appearance, he went ringside, and you can just sort of feel the freshness out of the situation where it doesn't feel so tightly scripted. You in the book actually, at around one point, mentioned that you come up with a lot of ideas. The talent, some people assume that they're just backstage and catering, not really thinking about ideas, but you were actually doing a pretty creative things to try to reinvent your character. One example I do want to bring up, because you didn't go into too much detail, and I would love to hear what this character would be, was the urban rock star gimmick, sort of a mixture of a hip-hop / rock star that could eventually get a ballet, etc. Almost, at least the way that I saw it, and you let me know if it's different, almost like an evolved version of MVP.
It was actually a evolved version of JTG, but something like that. Because I was looking back on Lil Wayne's career, and we were kind of similar. We kind of parallel. He started in a group, and then he had a little hiatus, and then he came back, and he just kind of revamped his career and his look, and he's a legend right now. He's a living legend. So that's something that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a heel, of course. Heels have more fun, and just be a self-proclaimed living legend, a walking, just an icon. And I wanted to eventually, when the character got over, like I said in the book, I wanted to have a Nicki Minaj type character be my valet. Someone like what is her name? What's her name? The Glow, Feel the Glow. What's the diva's name? She's married to one of the Usos.
Oh, Naomi,
yeah, she'd have been perfect for that role.
I can actually see that, and it's different because a lot of times in wrestling, we will get outrageous characters. For example, your dancing characters. That's where your Brodus Clay or Fandango go in. But that type of mystical character that doesn't think he's better than others, but that there's just a glow, almost like you mentioned with Naomi. It just works really well. So maybe someday you can get that character, whether it be in WWE or somewhere else.
We'll see. We'll definitely see.
Now, one thing about a character is that there is the persona. Yeah. You accompany that with the entrance, the music. Once the match starts, how important or how do you go about developing a moveset that really goes well with the character? In your case, one of our co-hosts, he couldn't make the show, Keith. I remember when we were playing SmackDown versus Raw 2008, I believe, and one of the reasons that he loved playing as you is because you actually had a lot of different moves that weren't in the game before that almost seemed like they were captured by you. Your entrance, it was really unique. It didn't feel generic. It felt like after the entrance happened, it was still JTG. It wasn't like, okay, let's just have a normal wrestling match now. How does that go about?
Oh yeah, with anything that I do, I always make sure that I paint it with my personality and creativity. I just don't want to go there. Like even with certain moves, I just don't do a regular move. I got to add a little of my personality and creativity to it. So even when I have a match, or if I do a new character, it's not the moves that's going to make the character stand out. It's going to be more what I do in between those moves. So the facials, the pauses in between the match, looking at the crowd, and if I'm going to do the urban joker character, it's going to be a deranged look. If I'm going to do the urban rock star, I'm going to look up into the air and do a pose. Different stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's something we don't really see enough of. You'll see a guy, he's this character, but as soon as the bell rings, a lot of that character fades away. So I think that's kind of almost like a lost art you don't see in too many people. So how did you go about kind of figuring out the little bits of flair that you wanted to add to these? Did you just kind of practice, practice in the mirror, or just work with people to kind of figure out little things you wanted to add to your moves?
I definitely practice my facials in the mirror and pause. And I also, with a lot of wrestlers that I noticed when we're putting together matches, they're worrying about memorizing the moves, where I'm more as memorizing what I'm going to do in between those moves, because that's what makes the wrestler stand out more. People remember the facials and the emotion that you had more than the move. Like, for example, at WrestleMania, when it was Vince McMahon. Who did he wrestle? I can't remember who exactly he wrestled, but is when he was getting a pipe and his face was just bloody, and he raised his head up from the ring. I remember that more than anything in the match because it was his personality. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, of course. Was it Hogan that he was wrestling?
Yeah, it was Hogan. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, a question about that, because one ongoing topic that we have in our podcast and that our listeners bring up a lot is moves in wrestling themselves. Nowadays in wrestling, DDTs and super kicks have become like a suplex, like a snap mirror. It's done everywhere. But you just talked about something that I personally enjoy as a fan, which is not the move. What do you do before and after, the build up to that move? Why has it been a process where that seems to be losing a lot of steam in the main product? Because a lot of times you can bring up independent companies that do that all the time, but it seems like it's made its way into not just NXT, but WWE. Is that a decision behind the scenes that maybe you saw while it was happening, or what do you think about that?
I just think it's a lost art. I don't think they're focusing on more of the character development, but more on the moves and keeping viewers tuned in. I think you'll be able to see more character at house shows, and a lot of fans don't know that if they don't go to the house shows, because on TV everything is rushed. You have to hit your time marks, and that definitely kills a lot of creativity, and you can't really have so much fun as when you're at a live event. They give you a certain time, but you don't have to hit it, and you can have more fun with the audience and experiment. That's your time to experiment if you're going to experiment.
Yeah, I hear from a lot of wrestling interviews that I've heard that most wrestlers enjoy the house shows more than the live events because there's more freedom and they can experiment more. So I'm assuming that was a similar experience for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Me and Shad had a lot of fun with the live with the audience at the live events. Too much fun, if you ask me. I know Shad did. He got in trouble a couple of times.
Yeah. How do house shows help evolve the wrestler character? Because you do seem to have a lot more time in the ring, but how do you pick and choose? This worked at a house show, so we experimented on TV, or does it have to go by an agent? What is the process between house show to TV, maybe pay-per-view?
The reason I like Talent Love house shows at live events, I'm trained to call it live events. live events.
Yeah.
We got a note saying not to call it house shows. But anyway, I'm called live events because when you're working with another superstar, you usually work with them throughout the whole weekend. Like if Crime Time is going to wrestle New Day, it's going to be 3 days in a row. So you're not so much focused on the moves anymore. You pretty much got that down pack. But that's when you get to focus. For me, I got to focus on the stuff that I did in between and what I got a reaction from. I'm listening to the crowd the whole time. So if I did a body slam one on Friday night and I did something in between that and they didn't react, on Saturday I'll do something after that body slam and try different stuff. And then by Monday, if I work New Day on Raw on TV, it's perfected. So trial and error.
It's a good way to kind of just, build on that foundation. This is kind of a random question, but kind of during the course of a match, I've noticed, at least on TV, I've never seen a wrestler sneeze or cough or anything during a match. Have you ever had an experience like that where you've had to hide something like that on TV or, something, you just don't feel good that day? Has anything like that ever happened to you?
No, I asked that same question to Goldust when I was a fan. I went to I think it was PC Richards in Manhattan, and I asked him that question when I went to go get his autograph. I said, "If you have to poop, what do you in a match? What do you do?" He was just he just looked. He said, "I guess you just hold it." He looked at me like it was a weird question. Like, okay, but no, I never sneezed. I never had maybe passed gas probably. But that was just to mess with my opponent. Like at live events, we don't play around at TV, but at live events, we play around a lot. You might pin, especially during battle royals, look closely, at that Royal Rumbles, or if you're at a live event and there's a battle royal, we're messing with each other. We're slapping each other on the back and running off, and they don't know who did it. I've done that a lot.
So one of the things that we love about the book is that you dedicate such a big amount of time to ribs. Like, for example, there's one part where Mondo Estrada, even though he's your friend, you bring up man, this guy, why does he do all these things to me? Why do you think that is such a necessary part of the wrestling culture backstage? Is it a way to sort of ease the mood between the travel, etc.?
Oh, for two reasons. For one reason is to buy time. When you're on the road, there's not much to do when you're at TV. Or a live event for so many hours. So ribbing each other is definitely part of the culture. And we also do it to, I guess, is a little bit of hazing. They want you to put your ego to the side and it's no, it's just a joke. It's a prank. We're brothers, that type of thing.
Do people feel obligated to do it? Or is it a case where once you feel sort of comfortable, it's like family?
Yeah, a sick, twisted way. We're all like family.
So now that you've been away for WWE for how long? It's been a couple years now, right?
Oh, a year and a half, 2 years.
So do you miss being there? What do you miss most about it?
It's fun you asked me that. You asked that question because I just passed the Barclays Center on the way to my my mother's home in Brooklyn, and I didn't feel any sort of way at all. I passed it. I saw the big Raw sign, and I didn't feel anything at all. I miss being in front of a live audience, but so much if I go back to the WWE, I know there's, the heat, the backstage politics. Would I go back? Depends on a lot of things. But as of right now, I'm not begging to go back. But if they came to me with a good offer, I'll definitely go back.
Now, was there a sort of withdrawal period, kind of just an adjustment after, immediately leaving? Because, it's such a different lifestyle in WWE versus kind of, the outside world. What was that kind of process like, kind of unwinding from the WWE world?
It was a good transition because before I got released, I was home for about a year and a half getting paid. So I was able to, but I was still ready to go back on the road. Like when you work with WWE, you always have to be prepared to get on a plane. Mm-hmm. So so I was home for a year and a half, but if I went anywhere, I would always bring my gear with me because they could call me, "Oh, we need you for TV," and you always live on the edge. So when I've been home for a year and a half, and then I finally got released, I was able to get that. I wasn't on the edge anymore.
Yeah,
I was more laid back, relaxed.
Now, do you keep up with today's WWE at all?
A little bit. My mom is a big wrestling fan, so when she visits me, or if I'm by her house, which I'm about to go upstairs right now, she's definitely going to have it on Raw. Best my friends, they still big wrestling fans that I grew up with. I so much don't watch it so much, but since we're getting like around big pay-per-views, I watch it, like WrestleMania. I've been keeping an eye on the product to see what the main events are and how they're building those storylines towards the big day. But probably after WrestleMania, I probably wouldn't watch it for a while, but until like SummerSlam.
Yeah, we were talking about, the super kicks and the DDTs. Is there anything else from what you've seen since you left that you feel has significantly changed?
No, not that I can think of off the top of my head, but yeah, those super kicks are getting ridiculous. It's getting ridiculous. I want to have a party, a WrestleMania party, and for every super kick, we'll take a shot.
That's a dangerous game. That's a very dangerous game.
That's a very dangerous game.
So you brought up the New Day a little bit earlier. What do you think about them? They're a huge success. You being a former tag team wrestler, would you have liked to have this feud between two over-the-top, charismatic teams that the crowd loves?
Oh yeah, I would love to have a feud with them. That would be that's money all day. We could feud for months. And the characters and the personality. I'm glad to see Kofi come out of his shell and just be himself, because that's the Kofi that we went back and forth roasting each other in the locker room. And then he was a totally different person when he came in front of the audience. So I'm glad to see him be himself, and the fans love it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a group today that we see, and it seems like they are very much kind of doing their own thing, where a lot of parts of the show feels very scripted. What is, based on your experience, like how does a wrestler or team get that privilege of being able to be more, off on their own, kind of doing their own thing and kind of having more freedom?
You have to build up that relationship with the writers, and definitely Vince. Vince has to like you. And I guess I believe they tried a lot of stuff on the live events before they brought it to TV, and they just probably had enough balls to go up to Vince and ask. I know I did. I was asking Vince a lot of things, if I could do it or not, especially with my character. I always wanted to stay in character when I was doing Crime Time, and they put out a dress code, and I didn't feel comfortable walking around in BizCash clothes. That was definitely not Crime Time. That was definitely not JTG. And I went up to Vince and I said, "Hey, this is not me. I want to live my character. Even when I'm not in the ring, can Shad and I, can we wear baggy clothes and wear our grills and our hip hop stuff?" He's like, "Yeah, go ahead, wear your Timbs, do it. Be you." And then I'm gonna tell all the supervisors and agents that you guys don't have to wear the BizCat, so they don't nag you or try to fine you. I was like, "Great, thanks, Vince." And we still got a lot of heat for that, because everybody had to dress in BizCat and they were getting fines, and Shad and I are rocking jeans and Timbs. Yeah, we got a lot of heat for that.
Well, at least you did have the approval of the most important person, I guess.
Yeah. And I got a lot of heat for that too, for going straight to the boss. In the wrestling world, you have to go through certain channels because they feel like you went over their head.
So because you're so careful about what happens to your character, right? Like you just said there, the dress code. What do you think about things like the Stone Cold podcast, where sometimes Raw will go off the air and this storyline just concluded, yet a couple of minutes later, here will be Triple H or Vince McMahon himself openly talking about the product when they're still sweating, or like Big Show said, like, "Give me a second to breathe." Do you like that people get both sides of the spectrum, or do you maybe think it should be done differently than the show just ending and you're already talking about the behind the scenes aspect of things?
Yeah, I like to keep it a little old school and kayfabe a little bit, just to keep the illusion alive. Yeah, I don't ever, like, who's been doing it for so many years is Undertaker. He's always in character. Even when he goes on certain shows that's outside of wrestling. Wasn't he on Jimmy Kimmel the other day?
Yeah, tombstoning a turkey. Yeah.
He was still character. You hardly see Undertaker in interviews where he's out. I don't think anybody's ever seen Undertaker do an interview where he's not in character, when he's talking as a regular person. Yeah,
how do you react when you found out the streak came to an end?
Oh man, I didn't like it at all. I especially didn't like the finish. I didn't like the finish. I didn't like the fact that I wanted him to retire with his streak. I think that's where the money is at WrestleMania. Everybody wants to go, like, for this year. That could have saved WrestleMania. If who's gonna end Undertaker's streak.
There's definitely a drop off of Undertaker's still doing matches, but it seems like ever since the streak ended, I mean, if it was going to end, it should probably be his last match too, you know?
Yeah.
So did you grow up primarily watching WWF or WCW?
WWF. I didn't. Where I'm from, we got made fun of if you watched WCW.
Oh,
Nobody
wow.
watched it. Yeah. Especially being in New York, it was definitely WWF all day.
So did you ever fantasize about the idea of having Sting wrestle The Undertaker, or any match in particular that you think should have happened, could have happened, but ultimately didn't?
I think it would have been cool to see Sting versus Undertaker, but not now. You know, Sting is hurt, and I don't think they're going to have the same freedom with their bodies that they would have had a couple of years ago. Even 2 years ago, not last year. Yeah, last year would have been all right. But now Sting is hurt, and we've already seen him lose so many times. It's not going to be the same energy going in.
So you bring up the fact that people are getting hurt. Now,
Yeah.
sadly, these past 2 years have been ridiculous for wrestling fans. At first, people joked, oh, what if X or Y is going to get injured now? And it seems like every month there's just somebody else that is out of action. The main event scene, all of these things are changing. And maybe this didn't happen even a few years ago. You look back 4 or 5 years ago, a couple of people maybe got injured, but not to this extent. What would you say has been the biggest contributing factor to this? Maybe travel or just the experience?
I would definitely have to say it's a combination of travel, and it might be overworking the talent. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, the live events and TV and then the international tours, it could definitely take a toll on your body, especially as you get older. But it's also younger guys too. Am I correct? It's getting hurt a lot. Yeah,
A guy like Cesaro right now is out of action.
Yeah, and you mentioned in your book that, you know, on a European tour, I believe you said, or overseas, that you wrestled 14 days straight. So maybe it's things like that. I mean, how did you prepare and handle 14 days of straight wrestling?
I mean, I didn't think about it at all. Because when I kept saying it, I was like, shit. And then I just kind of like blanked my mind out. Like, I couldn't believe it at the end of the tour that I wrestled 14 days.
When you say 14 days, do you mean like back to back? Was there maybe a day off?
No,
where you could...
back to back every day. We started Raw off in the States, and then after Raw was a travel day, and then we had a live event when we landed that night.
So when you know that's going to happen, you have to in some way prepare your body. Maybe not mentally. Mentally, you're go ahead, but maybe the second match of the night or the whole tour, maybe the knee starts hurting. How do you go about working with that? Do you talk to the other talent like, hey, be careful with this? Or do you communicate?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you tell them that my back is bothering me a little bit. Maybe I don't want to take. We could substitute that body slam with something else. You know, we could always substitute. I remember I worked with, was it Money Inc., Ted DiBiase and Cody, and Ted back was hurt. And we had to substitute a lot of stuff for him.
Oh, wow. So that's really difficult, just how, as time has gone by, it seems that just the work rate, the work that you guys do, even when you return home, right? You return to the U.S., you go to the airport. What if there's a really enthusiastic fan, but you just got back from a 14-day tour? Do you feel the obligation to sign the autographs? How do you go about sort of communicating that, yeah, but I sort of need sleep?
Me personally, I would do the autograph, especially if it's a kid. You know, I don't want to ruin that kid's day. You know, because I could just imagine if I was a kid, a 5-year-old, and I saw Bret Hart, and he told me that he couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to understand why. Like, I don't care if he's tired. Like, I'm 5 years old. I won't be able to break that down and understand. So if I see a kid, I definitely sign his autograph. If I'm really, really tired and I can't do it, I'll say I will not take the picture, but I'll sign an autograph. Signing is no problem because my name is JTG, but pictures, you know, I'm kind of like, maybe you could catch me next time. I'll sign something for you, but if the picture, because that takes, if it's blurry, I do it again and all that other stuff. So like that takes a lot of time.
Now, did you have any really interesting fan interactions, either positive or negative, that during your career?
Oh yeah, I mean, I hear stuff all the time. JTG, I could kick your ass, and I bet you can. You know, I don't even pay it any mind. When fans are talking, they're talking to JTG and not so much Jason Paul. the real person. So whatever you gotta say about JTG, I really could care less. But if you had something to say something about Jason Paul, that's personal, then that's a different issue.
Yeah, for some people, it's hard to sort of differentiate that. In your book, you do go into detail about how you started the business as a fan. Most wrestlers are still fans. If little JTG looked at the product now, what would be one thing that he will love that did change, and what would be something that he definitely missed?
I'm looking at the product now. Like, I love seeing like superstars. Remember superstars that used to come on Saturdays and Sundays?
Yeah.
And how you didn't see the main event guy every week. For example, Hulk Hogan or Bret Hart. You didn't see him every week. You'll tune in to see if you will see him. And if you did see him, it was a promo and not a match. And that's what kind of made it more exciting as a kid. And I remember calling my friend, Hulk Hogan's on. And it was just a promo. Now that it's overdone, and like when John Cena was there, you see him every week, and he's wrestling every week. And it's like, I'm looking back. I want them to bring that back. Like Hulk Hogan was promoting the product. He wasn't just wrestling, but he was doing shows and doing movies and making people wrestling fans. I think right now they're only catering to wrestling fans and not catering to bringing in a new audience. So I wish they'll bring that back.
Yeah, they definitely give too much away, and not to mention now Raw's 3 hours, and then they have SmackDown and main event, and there's so much content now, and you're just being exposed to the same people over and over again that it's easy to just kind of get tired of them. So I definitely agree that if they held it back,
they have clout. Like, New Day's over now. They don't have to be at Monday Night Raw every Monday. Get them booked somewhere. Have them do Saturday Night Live. I don't know. They could get them on there. I'm not get them on there. Get them on. Do something on Nickelodeon. Like, promote. Let's bring in a new audience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this, is the thing we'll talk about on our podcast of, something, funny happens or something great happens. And we're like, oh, how long until they beat this idea into the ground and we're all sick of it? They don't, they don't let it kind of just sit and marinate. They got to keep, throwing it back at you until you don't like it anymore.
Mm-hmm. And then you have SmackDown. So if you don't like Monday, then when does SmackDown come on again? Thursday? Friday?
It's back on Thursdays, yeah.
Back on Thursday, yeah. So like, it's just, they keep throwing the same stuff at you. It's like, ugh.
So Roman Reigns actually got interviewed really recently and is dealing with some backlash because he referred to WWE as a kid show, saying that if somebody flips him off, you're a 30-year-old man flipping him off at a kid show, then why are you doing that? When you wrestle, when you go out there, do you think of WWE as a show for everybody? Do you try to entertain a specific audience?
Oh, I entertain everybody. Yeah, I don't know where that comment came from. It's definitely not a kid's show. Of course we cater to everybody. They cater to everybody.
Did you ever see it differently, or do you think that WWE maybe does look at the kids as the sort of focus for the show?
Depends on certain characters. Certain characters are for kids, or more kid friendly. Some are not. I don't see how Brock Lesnar could be kid atmosphere.
Do you enjoy a character like Brock Lesnar then? Because you brought up earlier that you enjoy when superstars weren't there in every single episode. Brock Lesnar has historically, in the past couple of years, been that type of character. So do you enjoy that?
Oh yeah, I like the fact that they don't abuse Brock's character every freaking Monday. I look forward to Paul Heyman's promos when Brock Lesnar is there, and I hope they could keep doing that. And I don't think you're going to see Brock Lesnar get hurt anytime soon because he has a great schedule.
Yeah, he's a freak of nature. Whenever you see him in the ring, Ryan was actually last week's SmackDown taping, and he German suplexed Braun Strowman, and he made the guy look like he was 5 foot tall. Jeez. And it's Braun Strowman, this giant.
Yeah, and absolutely. Yeah. I mean, SmackDown is a show where they don't give it the treatment it deserves. But when Brock Lesnar showed up, maybe the crowd doesn't care as much about a SmackDown show, but when Lesnar shows up, everybody is reacting because it's a special attraction.
Yeah.
So as we close the interview, 2 quick things. Now that you've removed yourself from the world of wrestling, you continue to interact with fans on social media. You're publishing these books, which hopefully we do get a volume 3 because these are incredible reads. How has this impacted your personal life?
Well, I got a lot of heat for the cover with the wife. That's that's about it. But my friends and family who don't watch wrestling, they're reading the books and they're getting an inside glimpse of what I had to go through for the past 8 years, and if you want to count OVW, 10 years. And they're like, "Wow, you must really love this business for you to go through all that and stick with it." And I mean, I still love wrestling. I'm not in love with it right now, but I definitely still love the business. I love what it made me into as a man. And it was a platform for me to express my personality and creativity, which I have a lot of, and I'm just figuring out different channels to express them. Writing happens to be one of them.
Yeah, and do you plan on pursuing more writing opportunities outside of these series of Why Did I Write This Book? Or are you looking at different options now?
Oh yeah, I was writing a fiction book. You know, I got it started, and I stopped so I could focus on Damn Right I Write This Book Too, How to Play the Game, and I have a whole bunch of other projects. So that book's going to be on hold for a while.
Awesome. So question, how can people reach you? How can they know about what you're up to next?
Oh, you could find me on Twitter, JTG1284, Instagram at JTG121084, Facebook, Jason Paul, and I keep all my fans up to date. And yeah, check me out, social media.
Gang, you're going to have to break your piggy bank to get this book. It's only $2.99. There's no reason to not get it. If you're having a bad day at work, pick up your phone during the break and read it, and we guarantee you're going to laugh and have a pretty awesome time. On behalf of the Byte That podcast and our listeners, we want to thank you, JTG, for coming on the show once again. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, damn. Why Did I Write This Book 2 is now out as a digital purchase. To go get it, go to JTG's Twitter bio at JTG1284 and click on the PayHip link and get it. Once you've read it, send us a tweet to ByteThatCast and let us know what you like most about it, and let JTG know what you think about Chad and Armando Alejandro Estrada's wacky antics.
Cheer.